And one of the things I want to start off with, I've just almost just before this session, I just kind of added this in because I've been working with schools recently, been working with a school in Leicester individually over some time, really challenging circumstances, some parallels to context in terms of EAL and in terms of language access with some of your school contexts. What was interesting, we've looked at vocabulary, we looked at high quality talk, and we looked at reading. And we drew out lots of different ways we could do it, lots of different strategies. And as a school, they ended up narrowing down to 3 or 4 choices, 3 or 4 small strategies, not writing, not reading and kind of, lots of big umbrella areas with lots of different moving parts. They narrowed it down to 2 or 3 things. And in going back to that school just a couple of weeks ago, what was a real revelation, and it just kind of brought me back to my classroom practice, is just how hard it was in matter of months to do just one small thing, to integrate it into your habit. So I don't know if people have heard of this just a minute teaching strategy. It's just like the radio show. It's kind of no kind of grand idea. It's just the notion is, can we have our pupils talking for extended period of time? Can they talk for 1 minute? And when you add in those kind of competitive elements, the timing, the not pausing, the no repetitions, etc., you suddenly have a quite engaging but meaningful approach to encouraging extended talk. So I always enjoyed just a minute. It's one of my kind of favorite teaching strategies in my classroom practice. But then when I came back to the school, I recognized just in how many different ways that school had taken just a minute, and how differently from the original idea that I presented, and all those intelligent adaptations. And we ended up actually thinking less so about the thing, less so about the strategy, and more about how we're going to ingrain this into people's habits. And we don't need to be a school leader leading professional development to have to be thinking about this just on an individual basis, for our department teams at school, phase teams, and for senior leadership, thinking carefully, okay, for just one single strategy, like just a minute, it often doesn't work. So we need to adapt it. It's often difficult for specific pupils and classes for certain reasons. So we need that intelligent adaptation. It often needs some support factors. So one of the examples was with the Key Stage 1 pupils, they'd often give them some supports in terms of language prompts. They'd take away the kind of sense of, if you were given pauses, you had strikes and you were out after 3 strikes. They had to adapt it for children who had less developed language. And actually 20 seconds for quite a lot of students was a big success and would be more developed than most of their responses in class. So these endless adaptations are the substance of what good teaching is. And too often we can have this big picture of reading or writing. We look at writing later on, but we need to think at the micro level about individual pupils and about individual practices for teachers in our school. What does this look like? What 1 or 2 strategies are science teachers enacting? What 1 or 2 strategies are history teachers enacting? And thinking about this careful precision. And in this school in Leicester is actually a primary school. And they were thinking about phase differences and some pupils who had significant language needs and the obvious adaptation there. But what we agreed by the end of the day is we're not going to start lots more new ideas. We're not going to start a whole new raft of different strategies. We're going to carefully reflect and try and build upon the approaches we've tried so far. And I think that's always a tricky thing, isn't it? Making changes, but making them and establishing them and embedding them and building on them with new ideas. So it's an appeal to this session. There might be some new ideas in this session, but how would they fit and build upon approaches we've already taken in the project? And let's see not just this session through the eyes and through a singular pupil and the impact that they would gain from focusing on Words for All. Let's think about that full timetable, busy teacher who's just finding little corners of their week to make changes of their practice. And that makes us think really carefully about how many changes we're trying to enact and how we support them, how we sequence them, and what factors we need to think really hard about.